Well, Barry, just what's progress going into full week 2 here, especially after the scrimmage? What have you seen from your group?
It's gone by fast. It's amazing when you're, in the building all the time and all day. Our guys have really done a good job of embracing that, part of camp. It's a lot of time you get with them. You're in the building a lot. You get a lot of teaching, and so it's just growth. And there's mistakes made, and this is the time to correct those so they don't show up in games. But the intentionality, the effort, I think we've gotten better progressively through camp, and that's a good thing.
With Josh out for a little bit, what are you seeing out of the center group, and how important is it for those guys to take advantage of those reps?
Yeah, it's incredibly important, obviously, for us to have depth at all positions, but in particular there where the ball, it starts with them every play. And but those guys that have, we've had several guys in there. I think they've all have gotten better and more comfortable. And you saw it today as opposed to yesterday, so that's a positive thing. We're just going to keep pressing that, and like we are all positions, but in particular there, like to where we can get comfortable with multiple guys coming to the game and snapping the ball and playing in our offense.
Is there an aspect of the offense right now that feels the most in sync, given that there's more camp to go here?
Yeah, I think probably to your point, like we're working through the passing game, and that's always takes a little bit longer to get in sync than the run game. And so I think that if there was one area that would need to continue to get sharpened up, it'd be just the passing down the field, like intermediate passing, and so that's certainly a point of emphasis for us.
Is that a natural byproduct of new receivers and that's in that aspect?
No, I think it's just naturally the case in football. I mean, that's a timing. It takes more timing to work through all that than it does, the handoff patterns, and blocking the play, because it's a little bit more under control. And then you start dealing with more space, and it becomes, and multiple guys. We're playing a lot of guys at receiver, right? We got good depth at receiver, so we're trying to, we rotate a bunch of guys. So it's all that.
Very obviously tough news with Cole last week. What are you looking for in someone like Henry or Tatum, some of those guys who maybe could show more in that intermediate downfield passing game?
Well, I mean, that room is always, in my opinion, after my experience coaching them, those guys always have a little bit unique skill sets, and I would say that's still true. I mean, it is true. Obviously, the guys that are going to be healthy for us and be able to play, they have a different skill set than Cole and each other, and so it's our job to use those and how they apply and how they can, help our football team. And I'm very confident in what we have available. Obviously, very disappointed for Cole. And for our football team, what he was going to bring to the table. It's a tough blow for him, but I know he's a gritty, tough young man that's got great perspective on his life, and I know he's going to bounce back in a strong way. We're going to miss him, but we're also going to have to figure out how to compensate for him, and we're on the right track with that.
Coach, how is Donovan Leary done during camp? What kind of want to see from him?
Yeah, so obviously he had a really good last part of spring practice, and kind of started off there early in fall camp, and just continued to mature in his leadership, and I think the team really respects him and likes him, and then on the field he's become just so comfortable with what we're doing offensively. I see it. He's coming. It's every day. It's an everyday process, and so I feel good about where Donovan's at.
Would you like to get him on the field early this year? Is it kind of when circumstances present themselves?
Sure. Yeah, I think that's a conversation as we approach closer to the game. But certainly we feel good about the opportunity that when and if that's afforded to him, that he's going to take advantage of that, because he'll be prepared for that.
You feel like you have your 5 on the offensive line, or are there still some robust competitions going on?
Well, I think it's getting closer to be solidified. We're always hunting and pecking for guys to emerge, and watching guys emerge through camp and where they're at, and so certainly the guys that first 5 is probably pretty solidified as far as like today goes, but like we've got guys that are really coming on and feel really good about their ability to be flexible and plug and play, and so it's our job to put the guys out there in the best positions that we can, and whatever that looks like, we're willing to do that. But those guys have been pretty consistent with the way we've worked through the groups this fall.
I feel like you're in a position where you can absorb an injury or two this year with the depth that you have.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I mean, we don't want that to happen. So I mean, those things happen in football, just like the Colorado. Like, we have enough guys on our team to figure it out, and. But I do think we've increased our depth and quality of depth there, to your question, and feel good about guys that can go in and function in our offense and do good things for us.
How's the helmet communication
going
for you guys, especially in the scrimmage?
Well, I think it's been we did it in the spring, right? So we did it in the spring because coach had good vision, got out in front of that, and I'm sure some other teams did in the country too. But we used it in the spring, kind of a makeshift version a little bit, and so our guys got used to it. I got used to it, and then we're transitioning daily to using the actual way it's going to work during the game. So it's taken some getting used to, but I really like it. I think the quarterbacks really like it. And it's just finding that right, that right little sweet spot on how much to communicate and how to not do too much and not do too little. So that's always a challenge, and it's been fun to kind of go through that.
A couple of receivers I want to ask you about. First, Alex Kapka-Jones. We just kind of hear his name come up a little bit more. How much different is he now, a year in the system, and what can you bring to you guys?
Yeah, I think he's grown a lot. Last year he got here those guys that get here in the summer, it's hard. Like Carson Goda's gotten here late. He's done a really nice job. I'm probably leaving off a couple of guys. I think Zakhari got here late and, done a nice job. But maybe that was kind of Kapka last year, coming to a new system and not really playing at, college football a lot, junior college football, but not like Carson had played, And so I think he's really leveled off. Really, you can see he's more comfortable. He's more confident. He's a tall, long guy that runs good routes, catches the ball really well, is a really good deep ball threat. Really like where Alex is at right now.
With Malik, what's different about him? Obviously, he had a lot of high expectations for himself last year. How much has he grown year over year?
I think he's really starting to come into his own. I really do. And I think I see that, and I think Steph's done a great job. Justin's done a good job with all those guys, and I've been super pleased with. We got obviously overall a great staff. I work with my guys offensively on a daily basis, and can see the, just the way these guys have getting their guys to elevate and understand the game and coach them, and Steph's obviously a part of that. And I think he's got all those guys in a good spot playing, and we're going to use a lot of guys because we got good weapons.
What stands out?
As a follow-up to Doug's question on the offensive line, and particularly injuries, this 2-week period of not having recruits, is that beneficial for you to be able to document and go, okay, whether it's Kevin, whether it's TJ, they feel comfortable doing this?
Well, obviously, it's not a good thing for us, but I think there is some good that can come out of it, and to your point, and to see, to they like this, if this is a scenario, like who's going to step up, who can we count on, and I don't think it's just one guy. I think we got to make sure we have, 2 or 3 guys ready to go, and so from that perspective, I think we can turn that into a positive for us, and really solidify our depth on how we're going to play there at that position.
How with each Trey and Cal, obviously not getting a ton of reps, I would imagine, but like with Donovan out today or whatever, how much have they progressed since the spring?
Yeah.
Each of those guys.
Well, Kirkland's the guy that is kind of got those reps today, and then Trey's kind of we're pouring a lot of the developmental reps into Trey, like we did Cal last year. It's kind of the order, kind of how we see things. Like the young guy, and Cal's gotten some of those developmental reps, but a lot of them have come to Trey, and Trey is progressing. You can tell he was here in spring. And both Trey and Cal as well, their knowledge base has grown because of their time and distance being here, and so that's a work in progress, like it is all positions, and like they got to take advantage of every rep, every meeting, every walkthrough, every mental rep, and then when it's their time to go, they got to be able to apply the offense, and I've seen signs of that.
Big picture-wise, offensively, just what have you liked about the progression or the evolution of your offense in year 3?
Well, I like our talent. I think that's one thing. I'm not saying we've had good talent each of the last 2 years, but I think we've kind of restocked that, and we've got some pieces of the puzzle that can help us, and it's gonna look different than the previous 2 years, just because we have different people, and playing to our strengths is fun. It's fun to kind of figure out, okay, what are our strengths, what are our weaknesses, and what can we emphasize, and so. I think we've got a group that's confident and hungry and know that when we execute and do things well, and I'll put them in good positions, that we can be good. And they also know that when we don't execute, and if I don't put them in good position, we're like most people, we're going to get stopped. We're not going to be good. And so, but I think this is a fun time of year as we build our identity, and it's obviously the huddling and the communication, I should say, gives you a different aspect of how to play the game. I have direct communication with the quarterback, so that's a new twist on the offense this year that I think can help us and inform our identity. So I'm just really excited to watch them get ready to go play. We've got a lot of work to do between now and then, but the big thing is we want to be a consistent offense, and we want to be there every game and show up every game and do what we need to do to help our team win, which is ultimately score one more point than the other team, no matter what that looks like.
How malleable do you have to be as a coordinator to maybe in the spring look at this is what we've got, this is maybe how we need to shift things?
Yeah, I think you have to be. Obviously, you look at Cole's situation, what we thought maybe we were going to be and what we were going to do. That has shifted. You lose a guy, okay, now let's think what we can, how we can shift that, how we can cover that, how can we mask the loss of him. We got other players there that can help us continue to roll, but maybe not similar to what Cole's skill set is, so that's part of it. I think that's a good word. I think you have to be that. You have to be able to shift and move, and you know, and kind of go with the flow, so to speak.
What has stood out to you about Luke's training camp so far? Just, what, 10 days or whatever it is?
I think confidence and, you know, in what we're doing, and he's being really communicating with me well, and he's had a good camp so far, and I've been pleased with that.
Overall, do you keep a schedule in your head between the start of camp to the opener of where you need to be? Do you feel like you are on schedule, so to speak?
Yeah, I do. I think Coach does a great job keeping us on pace. You know, we spend a lot of time on situational football, so I've been around places before sometimes where, you know, you play ball all the time, then at the very end you're like, oh shoot, we got to get this, we got to get that, we got to, you know, we hadn't taken a clock yet, you know, like Coach does a great job of keeping us on pace in that regard. So I think that helps me set the pace as the offensive coordinator, kind of check the box. Yeah, we've done this. Yeah, we got to look after 2 weeks. You know, we need to install this. We haven't gotten to this point. We need to refine this. You know, this is what's game ready. You know, so that's kind of how we're approaching it right now. Game ready, needs to refine. We still need, or we don't need at all. You know, and that's really our job to fill as a staff. Started with me.
Seems like there's a pretty good battle at the slot receiver spot going on. Any one of those guys separated themselves?
They've all played. I think they've all had their moments. You know, Hank and Canary, and we got other flexibility. I think you'll see a bunch of people in the slot for us this year, a bunch of different people. I do think that that's one thing that's going to show up. I think we're going to use multiple people, and I think they'll be lined up in different spots for us, which is a good thing. It gives us a lot of flexibility.
To that regard, Barry, how valuable is Zakhari being able to play all three positions when you had him at UTSA?
Well, anybody that can play all three increases their value, right? And so, you know, Pat can do it. I don't want to go down the list of guys. Name is some of the guys that are more focused on their position as they develop. It's a little harder. Some guys that have been in the system longer, it's easier. Some guys, it's the skill set that would keep them from going in there. But so, you know, obviously Zakhari's history has been predominantly on the perimeter, but there's been times where he's in the slot. And same thing for Pat. He's lined up in the slot sometimes for us. And so we have you know, it's just really interesting, you know, for me is I really like the flexibility we have. And so I think it's a good thing for offense.
What is the biggest adjustment as a play caller to the in-helmet communication?
Well, it's you know, it's interesting. Like there's some nuances, even like okay, how you hold the play sheet, because you have to hit the button. You know, I'm used to talking directly into the mic with 2 free hands. Well, now something that small, you have to stop and go to one hand, you know, to click the button to communicate. So takes some training and some practice. That's why we're practicing it, but it's not supernatural, you know, it's not, but getting closer to where, you know, that becomes a way of life for us to be able to do that. I started talking to my wife like that at home. I was clicking in and saying, hey, can you hear me, honey? You know, you good? You know.
I guess, as the offense has changed,